So it's Friday the 13th, and there's a full moon. Now, Friday the 13th isn't really a thing. It's just a coincidence of the calendar. But the full moon is something to actually believe in. Because regardless of what else you think about the moon, during the full moon, it's giving you all the energy it possibly can. All the energy that the moon is capable of reflecting onto the earth is happening at its maximum intensity during the full moon. And during the full moon, because of that, during the night, it is much more light out than it is on other parts of the month. So creatures that normally do not are not active at night can come out and interact with creatures that are active every night. And so you get two groups that normally don't interact suddenly having an opportunity to interact. And that energy tends to cause things to happen. It tends to get a little weird around the full moon. It's been studied in certain circumstances, and it seems to bear fruit there. So I would say everyone be careful today. Just watch out for the freaks because they're out. All right, this is Tattoo with Children. I'm Flavor A in seat A. Over here in seat B, we have the Dread Pirate Benjamin. And over here in seat C, we have the incomparable. You know what, Mike? We're gonna have to give you a sign-on name.
That's probably true.
Just a little something. And I've been thinking about it, and I was like, anything that references the North or where you're from, it just feels wrong because we're in Texas. So I'm gonna give you a good Southern name. How about Chicken Fried? Chicken Fried Pain.
That is the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
I don't know about that.
How about okay?
It does not go along with Chief Intelligence Officer.
What about Southern Comfort?
Okay,
I can do that.
Okay, I mean,
Call me Soko.
SoCo.
Okay, see now I'm thinking Southern California. That does not work for me. I sorry guys. We're gonna have to work on Mike's sign-in name.
We'll keep working on it, guys. We're not gonna let you down. All right. So I was listening to some of our old podcasts that we've already posted, and they're pretty good. But it occurred to me that some of our audience is going to be very, very confused by some of our language because we're speaking in code, and the codes particularly is related to a manga and anime called Naruto. And some of you will get it immediately, and some of you have no idea what we're talking about. So while we can't explain everything that goes on in the story of Naruto because it's massive, it would take us literally the rest of our podcast trying to go through all of it. We can at least explain why this is happening and give you sort of a guide on what to be thinking when you hear some of this weird talk. So Naruto is the manga about ninja, which is just a comic book, and so it's a comic book about ninja, and it's a whole village of ninja, and it's something that I got involved in as far as consuming the media well before I even had kids. Like Ben, I think you started listening to it or watching it or reading it because you were trying to interact with your kids better, correct?
Well, yeah, I was trying to interact with my kids differently. So my daughter I alluded to it in my post on Black Crow Brother yesterday. My daughter rolled off the couch over a pillow, off the couch at the age of 3 or 4 days. And so by the time she was 2, we had read every book in the house 150 times and watched every video. Right. And there's just sometimes you need as parents where you just like, okay, we've watched, we've watched The Little Mermaid 800,000 times.
Right.
So I'm going to turn the TV on, and it kept going to Ed, and Eddie, or SpongeBob. Now,
right.
I love both of those programs as an adult.
Right.
But for a 3-year-old,
It
I
seems a little
think,
much.
yeah, it's a little much. And
Yeah.
so I was looking for something else, and I came across the Naruto. And in the very first couple of episodes, it was like, hey, don't abandon your friends.
Right.
Do keep your word.
Right.
Find work to do with your hands every day.
Right.
Never give up.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, like this looks great. And it got way worse from there.
Yeah. Guys, I mean, the Naruto does it has great themes, like you just said. It's all about family. It's all about it's all about doing things for your community. You know, it's all about uh, when the chips are down, you don't have to get depressed. That's you can actually push through if you set your intention beforehand. It's like lots of good things like that. But at the same time, the story itself is about children in a war getting killed. You know, it's about child soldiers, and it's pretty harsh if you but it's dressed up in all this glossy, high color, high energy. It's really positive energy all the time, even when they're in their worst situations. So it's something that really appealed to me, and it's something but then as I said, before I even had kids, I picked up on it, and literally thought I was the only person in the world over the age of 12 that was reading this, but I couldn't stop. I was completely hooked, and so like I said, it's a huge story. It's been going on for years, and I did eventually start having kids, and then I came back to Lufkin. And I think it was in our second or third conversation, Ben mentioned Naruto, and I was like, seriously? You're into Naruto? And it struck me as really weird because Ben and I were very different backgrounds. We had chosen very different paths, but we had somehow came to the exact same spot and were doing a lot of the same things. And so that deepened our conversation. And as a result, now Naruto is actually shorthand for a lot of deep concepts. So rather than spend an hour talking into a concept, we can just reference something out of Naruto and get into it immediately.
It's very Star Trek,
Darmok and Jalad at Tanagra, yeah.
Yes.
Jesus Christ, guys. Y'all rehearsed that beforehand?
No, that was totally spontaneous.
That may have been the nerdiest thing to ever happen on the internet.
I'm totally
that
okay
was
with that.
incredible.
I mean, you got to realize there is also going to be a contingent of people listening to this, either now or at some point, who are going to go, Naruto, isn't that the same thing that the dude who wants to do the raid on Area 51 is all into? And
right, yes.
That is absolutely 100%
it's
true.
It's the exact same thing.
We do not go around wearing the costumes on a daily basis, but given the option of wearing the costumes, I think at least 2/3 of us here, if not 100%, would do that.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and touch on your point and just go on the record saying I read a lot. I mean, my parents I had books. I was at home, and they instilled that in me. I argue pretty strongly and with a lot of evidence to back up my hypothesis that next to the Bible, I think Naruto is one of the greatest story ever told. I've watched a lot of stories, I've read a lot of stories, and I'm just telling you, the cohesiveness of the story, the consistency of the story, where the story takes the characters over 16 or 17 or 18 seasons, whether you're watching it or whether you're reading it, and I never read it as much as you, but I watched it. So it was something that my kids, Megan started at 2, and it finished when she was 18 or 19.
Right. I mean,
well, the big thing is,
story.
The reason for me to say something like that is because, people get really, we kind of touched upon this a little bit in one of our previous episodes, but people get really caught up in fandom. Okay.
Right.
And if you're a fan of one thing, then you can't recognize the fandom of another, or you're at war with that fandom, or you're just not right for having that kind of like for something. And I'm going to be 100% honest. For a period of time, That's exactly how I was. I was on that side of it. Like, oh, you like something so much that all you do is talk about it. Wow, you're a nerd or a dork or whatever you want to call it. And having now been exposed to exactly what Ben just said, um, one of the greatest stories ever told, um, it really changes my perspective on what it means to be a fan of something.
I really think that I think that people shit on fans too much. I do think that people take fandom too far when they start identifying so completely with the group that they're in that they begin to treat other people as the other. So it's like, you're not into Naruto, well then I can't talk to you. I think that goes too far. But for people that internalize the lessons in a story, now not just Naruto, but any story, they could be considered a fan of that story because they've internalized the lesson. But that's what you're supposed to do. That is the purpose and the power of stories. And if it's a really good story, it'll be a really powerful lesson. It can change your life.
Yeah.
So
And by the way, to back you up, Darmok and Gelada Tanagra is possibly the greatest Star Trek episode, next gen, that ever existed.
I think it is the greatest. Like, that's the reason why I remember it so well, is because I've watched it literally 1,000 times.
I've sent it. I can't tell you how many people I've sent email links of that to when they're struggling,
Yeah.
or when they're going through something in their life, or they're trying to find a new way of doing something, or I know that they're in that liminal space. They're in between B and C, and I just go, hey, watch this couple of episodes right here, Darmok and Gelada Tanagra, because it has so much to do with the other. It has so much to do with what we don't understand. It has so much to do with people outside of our circle, and it has so much to do with language.
It's everything about language. Like, that's really what this segment's about here. It's really about how we communicate with each other. Because here's the thing about the maker of Naruto. Okay, the guy that writes it. Like, and you and I have talked about this at length. Like, it seems as if he has a particular, his true genius, his ability to look into the present day, to look into the present moment, dissect it, and see all of the issues, and then display that in the story.
Mm-hmm.
So where it seems like it's he's coming off as this little kiddie thing that's going on, and it seems immature on the surface because of how bright the colors are. Mm-hmm. The truth is, he's talking about the present day problems, mm-hmm. and he's putting it in the concept of, okay, here's what you're doing on the surface, you adults, and here's what the kids are going through. How are you justifying your actions now? And that happens over and over again, where he's bringing the outside in to bring you to the center and say, look at what you're doing to your family. Look at what you're doing to your community. And ask yourself, are your actions correct? And that sort of introspection into himself and into society is really unique, I think. Like, there's just not many people that can do it.
Yeah, and it's, I've tried to explain the depth, because everything you just said is true. The difficulty is there are parts of the conversation that take 6 years to get to. This takes me to another storyteller that you and I both love, but is very disliked in the film community, and that's Jim Jarmusch.
I love him.
The way you say it in Texas. He started out with Dead Man with Johnny Depp way back in the day, like when Johnny Depp was a baby. He moved right into Ghost Dog, Way of the Samurai with Forrest Whitaker. And the problem that people have with him is he tells stories at the same speed life happens.
Yes.
So where, say, Michael Bay or some of these other directors will edit out that awkward pause.
Right.
Jim Jarmusch leaves every awkward pause in there. So most of his stories that take 3 hours to tell, they actually took 3 hours in real life too.
Right. So like that conversation that you see in the like a lot of like I see a lot of times like you see a Jim Jarmusch movie and like man that conversation was really well put together because of how real it seemed. You know, it's like you said they're in a convenience store and they're talking and they don't really speak the same language and it's real awkward and said, man, that was really interesting how he put that together. And he didn't really put it together. He just put these people in the same room and then they had a conversation and he filmed it. And that's incredible.
I'm curious when this came out, Mike, if you can give me some background, but he got famous originally, or his most notoriety came from coffee and cigarettes.
Yeah.
He made he made this incredible series called Coffee and Cigarettes that just had an unbelievable amount of I guess you would say culture icons.
Yeah.
1993.
Yeah, I mean, and some of his quotes in the Rolling Stone back in the '90s also got heavily hit on because he argued that as an artist, your principal job was to steal everything. If it wasn't nailed down, take it.
Steal
and use it.
everything and use it. And it was we refer to that as burning information. You take the information and you literally consume it all until it's gone, and then put it back out there in a different form. And in that way, it continues. And he was like the dude that brought that concept to me. Was that the idea of okay, it's all right if it sounds like somebody else because there's no other way to grow. Like he like yeah, Jim Jarmusch and Naruto, like these are all people that are improving their world through their stories, and that's one of the things that I believe in strongly, that the world improves through stories, and so I'm going to incorporate the lesson into my language, like just like that Star Trek episode, if you've ever seen it, where a whole species speaks in stories. That's kind of how Ben and I interact with each other a lot of the time. So if I look at if I see a guy going down the street, and I look at Ben and go, "Hey, that is Itachi watching Jiraiya from a distance." Ben knows instantaneously. I'm saying that guy is not to be messed with right now.
Right.
You know.
Or if we say stupid fucking white man, we know we're referring to the character who is in every one of Jim Jarmusch's films saying the exact same line. He has no other lines in most of the films.
Right.
But the interesting thing that you kind of caused me to come to is we're going to use a bunch of terms over and over again. The leader of the village, if you were, really unvoted in, just kind of more of a, I don't know, maybe a spirit animal or something.
Totem.
Yeah, is known as the Hokage. Hokage, and in Japanese it means fire shadow, the shadow a human makes standing by a fire. It is one of the images that you see, and so Hokage will come up again and again. Another term that comes up again and again is shinobi, which in plain English means ninja. I think the interesting thing about that is when you really delve into the story, the line that keeps coming up in my mind again and again is those who endure.
I think that's the only definition they ever came to that made any sense.
Yeah.
Because that's a concept in the story. Well, I think probably for 95% of the story, they keep asking a question about what is a shinobi. Because they're all shinobi, they all know that, but it means something different to everybody because everybody has their own way of doing it. And so trying to figure out exactly what it is, trying to pin it down, is a constant struggle. But the truth is that everyone in the story has to endure the situation that they're in. So they don't necessarily overcome the situation. They have to get through it because they're trying to get something going for the next generation.
And it also came up, the term hidden village is one
Yes.
of their concepts, and you and I grabbed a hold of that specifically, that there's a village everywhere.
Right.
When we talk about the hidden village, we're not simply saying that Lufkin, Texas is special. I believe Lufkin, Texas and East Texas is special, but what I love is going to Richmond, Virginia, and finding the village there.
Right.
Going to Memphis and finding the village there. Going to a company and finding the village there. There's always a group of people that are connected and that are a driving force behind a concept, behind a town, behind an idea, behind
And they're
a company.
very rarely in the public eye. You won't see them in the newspaper, but you will absolutely feel their influence, and that's what makes them survivable. Because when people know about them, it becomes much more difficult for them to operate. So yeah, the hidden village in any situation, like I have one friend that refers to tribes a lot. It's like you got to go find your tribe, find who those people are. And if you go to a new place and you don't know anyone, but you go to a diner and you see a guy sitting by himself drawing on a napkin, you go, that might be a member of my tribe.
Right.
Let me go.
Yeah.
And so yeah, guys, it's just I'm just trying to do a little quick explanation of these concepts, because if we talk about Shinobi, we're talking about a person who is a part of the group, and they work, they do missions, they participate, and they support. When Ben talks about the Hokage, he's talking about, and people people would say that Ben's put himself in a position of leader, and that's true to a certain extent, but it's also, you got to understand, the reason why isn't because he's trying to lead, it's because he's trying to be in the lead. Okay, so keep in mind, like the story of Naruto is a story about constant struggle, and so there's always a battle going on. So the Hokage is the person that should be on the front line of that battle, and so when the first shot's fired, the first shot should hit him. That makes sense? Yeah. Like he's the guy that's going to drop first, and that's his purpose.
Yeah, I think that's accurate. I think that's, when you read American history, when you read any history, but specifically when you read American history,
Mm-hmm.
I have so much admiration for the people who landed, who landed on these shores first. Of course, I have less admiration for the fact that we didn't find out all the stories of the people who were here, who
Right.
had grown up here. But I think that one of the things you find in American history is you find that the leader is not he's not lined up behind 500 guys going, well, I'm going to die 500th. I'm going to be the last man standing. No, he's first out of the gate.
Right.
He's the guy that's going to get hit first. And that's what makes so many of the stories about America special, is that the leaders didn't send people to do things. The leaders went and did them.
Right.
And then they recounted those stories.
We call them pioneers, forefathers, trailblazers. We got great concepts for these guys because they did great things,
Yeah, Martin Luther King,
Yeah.
the man said, hey, no one's out front.
Right.
So I'm going to go stand out front, and that Clarence Jordan, later on. I mean, very different men, very different backgrounds, very
Right.
different walks of life. Hey, no one's standing out front here in Georgia. I'm gonna go stand out front.
Right.
I'm gonna try a different concept. I'm gonna move these things to the next level. But I'm not sending somebody to do my work. I'm gonna do my work myself.
Rosa Parks.
Yeah,
you know,
anyone that you can name that you look at and say, wow, there's a leader. One of the hallmarks is that they were there first.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's yeah, it's a special thing, but it's also a heavy thing. You have to. In common culture, we're really interested in blaming the kids. And I think something, Ray, you and I were born very close together, 78, 79. I think we felt that our whole lives. We felt
Yes.
blamed from the time we were 15, from the time we were 11 probably. We felt the blame of, hey, you guys are not doing right. And from 11 until now, and I'm 40.
Right.
And I'm looking around going, okay, so now I can take some responsibility for the way my county society is going, the way my city society is going, the way my state society is going.
Right.
But when I was 11,
It was impossible for you to be blamed for It should have been anyway. Like, said you damn kids are making too much noise. Well,
Yeah, what?
I didn't even ask to fucking be here. You're in the middle of church and they're going to be quiet. You got me up out of bed to come do this.
Right, yeah, like what was I supposed to do about it? I didn't know we were doing this today. Like,
All right, yeah.
This was not on my plans for today.
Yeah, so my plan was to fuck around and play with my friends, and you threw a kibosh in my shit. So yeah, I'm gonna be a little salty about it and make some noise.
But yeah, I think that's a struggle. Is that when I look at society today, I don't actually blame other people. When I look at society, I'm 40 years old. When I look at society today, I take responsibility for it.
Right.
I helped build this.
Yeah.
And a lot of us, I think, have to start looking at the world differently and recognizing that simply not talking is not building anything.
Right. And simply talking isn't change. If you want something to change, you're gonna I got into a real good conversation about that on Twitter just the other day, where people were going on and on about how, oh, we need somebody to come help us and show us the way out of the situation. Like, we gotta look at on the outside for maybe somebody from Canada can swoop down and show us and then lead us to a new shore. And I was like, guys, we don't need any help because we haven't worked.
Yeah.
We don't need any help because we haven't even tried. We're not even angry yet.
Right.
So if you want to get help, you have to, like, I don't think even the Lord Jesus was going to help you right now because you've been too goddamn lazy.
Yeah, we're not even talking to each other yet.
Yeah.
We can't have a conversation about, and I realize I'm about to jump into a real big, pan of hot water here, and I'm going to anyway. How are we supposed to have a conversation about freedom of speech, the right to bear arms, who we elect as president, when I want you to honestly ask yourself, when is the last time you had a good conversation with your significant other or spouse about where to eat?
All right, on that note, we're going to take about a 3-minute.
Doesn't matter if you're cooler, hotter than the cortisol president or lose a box. Doesn't matter if you're cooler, hotter than the cortisol president or lose.
All right, so yeah, when we're talking about fundamental things, like, I didn't realize when I got married that the question, what are we going to have for dinner, would be the most difficult question I'd ever have to answer on any given day.
See, this is why I don't trust adults. I don't trust our parents.
Yeah.
They could have fucking told us this shit.
Yeah.
You don't need to know how to fuck. You don't need to know how to raise kids. You don't need to know where to go to church. That shit's easy.
I will say this, the first time I came across this concept of day-to-day decisions being difficult, I was working at the Dead Cog downtown, and one of my coworkers there, we used to talk all day when I was in the office. I wasn't in the office every day, but when I was in the office, we would talk a lot. And it was a really, really nice lady named Jeannie. And Jeannie would be on the phone with her daughter, who was a friend of mine. And they would be talking about what to eat. And the conversation would last forever. And I'm like, Jeannie, why are you having such a hard time figuring out the difference between corn and cream corn? It's like, you have to understand, if I don't get this right, they actually won't eat. Like, it'll be 11 o'clock at night and they're hungry. I have to get this right.
See, that's crazy to me.
Yeah, it is. It's crazy, but it happens to me every day now. I have to, before I go into work, and I go into work in the afternoon, I have to have at least an idea about what food's gonna look like. Otherwise, I'll get home, there's no food, or my wife get home and she absolutely has nothing to feed herself or the children, or I'll get home and my daughter still awake. Have you eaten today? He's like, no, I hadn't eaten anything.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh fuck, okay, I gotta whip up something, or like I have to have an idea of what's going to happen food-wise. It's a very difficult concept, and it's an everyday thing, and it's like how are we this old?
Right.
And it dawned on me eventually that this is the conversation that everyone has.
Yeah.
Everybody has this conversation with themselves. If you're an adult,
Right.
you provide the food,
Right.
right? When you're a kid, you don't provide the food. So you don't really think about how the food discussion happened.
Yeah.
You know, the food appeared there. Now look, I've got enough money to feed my family.
Sure.
I've got enough. My oven came in, by the way.
All right.
I would thank Lowe's, but I still have another bone to pick with it. We may get into that too.
Okay. All right.
But so I have the means to provide the food. So all I need from anybody on any given day is, hey, what do you want to eat? That's the question. It's not what should I cook, what should I go find, what should I hunt and gather. Question is, what do you want? Because if you give me an idea of what you want, I can do the rest of it. Give me a vague idea. You say I want Asian, like okay, that's all I need. I'm going with it. You know, I can prepare something. I can buy something. Do you want pasta? Okay, I can prepare something. I can buy something. I can figure it out. Give me a guideline, because otherwise it's just me, and if I get it wrong, the people don't eat.
Okay. Okay. See, that's a very foreign concept for me. So tell me this, because I think we're getting into a very interesting. Tattooed with children is just basically like philosophical bullshit, isn't it?
I mean, well, yes,
Okay. All right.
but I think that's exactly what's called for.
Do you think you grew up poor?
You know, I know for a fact I did not grow up poor, but I grew up in a poor area. All of my friends were in a poor area. Like my parents worked constantly. You know, they worked all the time, so there was no way that we were poor. But at the same time, they grew up poor, so they didn't
See, I've never-
over provide. They would provide enough for us, and then let us do the rest of it.
But I've never considered the question of what are you in the mood? Like you just said that. What am I in the mood for? And my immediate thought was, who gives a fuck about that?
Mm-hmm.
Like that hasn't come up in 40 years. What am I in the mood for? Like, if we got red beans, then we're eating red beans. We got pickles, we're eating pickles. We got bread, then we're eating bread. We got rice, then we're eating rice. Like
my wife grew up very poor, so there was times when there was not enough food in her house. There was never not enough food in my house. There was always food in my house. Yeah, she has always said that she'll eat anything, and she will. If it's there to eat, she'll eat it. But at the same time, she has, I guess because I love food preparation is the reason why it comes from me a lot of the time with like, what do you want? Because there's nothing, I have a concept that I've introduced to several people. Whenever food is in the conversation, I always say, look, you can have a pile of ingredients, and that's all they are. If you take those ingredients and you chop them up, prepare them, and add heat to it, then you have a pile of prepared ingredients. It's not food until somebody eats it.
right.
So if you're not going to eat it, then it's not food. So if I don't want to sit there and prepare a bunch of shit that no one's going to intake, you know, like that hurts my soul. So I'm not trying to satisfy myself when I prepare this food. I'm trying to satisfy the need for food. So if you're not going to eat it, then I don't want to prepare it. Like, that's just a waste of my time and energy. So that's the reason why it comes up to, but the idea of what are we going to do for food? That's everybody does that. Like, I've had this conversation with pretty much every adult in my life.
Yeah.
Like, you know, say, guys, what are you going to eat today? And they're like, oh, fuck, I don't know, man. I don't know what I'm going to eat.
And
like,
I don't know. Is that in your mind when you look at that? Is that a rich thing or a poor thing, or is that simply
I have not
branding?
I haven't noticed an income disparity in the struggle with this question. Like, like, sure, poor people say, if I can find food, I'll eat it. People who struggle to provide the actual food itself, yeah, they're like, what the fuck doesn't matter what it tastes like, as long as it keeps us alive for the day. That's a different concept than what do you want to eat, but it doesn't really change the conversation.
Yeah.
Like it's the same conversation. Is how are we going to provide food for this day? It's such a mind fuck to sit down and think about the fact of all the struggles I have during the day. That, and it's it extends. It extends to other aspects of it, because if I don't figure out what to eat, then I can't figure out where do we go? Okay, what do we do for entertainment for the kids? Do we go to a park? Do we go to do we go to the zoo? So, well, if they haven't eaten, then we can't go to the zoo because the zoo doesn't have any good food there. So we're gonna have to go to a park that's near a restaurant where we can feed the kids. And like my wife ran into this just the other day. Like one of the things that we don't do in my house is go to McDonald's.
Okay.
I have issues with McDonald's from a long way back, from when I was a kid, and so we don't go to McDonald's. But my kids have grandparents.
Okay.
My grandparents definitely go to McDonald's, and so my youngest has developed a taste for Happy Meals.
Okay.
And my wife was with the kids alone, and she was like, "All right, I'm gonna take you guys to a park, but we also need ice cream." So, all right, perfect place for a park and ice cream is McDonald's. And so she goes to McDonald's and she's telling the kids, "All right, go ahead and order your ice cream." And my youngest daughter rushed to the counter and goes, "Happy Meal."
Yes.
Well, now she's fucked because we also have the rule that the kids order their own food, and so she
Right.
couldn't come back and
Right.
say, no, you can't get that. I have to order for you, because that would be inconsistent.
Right.
So now the youngest gets a Happy Meal, and so since the youngest gets a Happy Meal, the oldest is like, well, I'm not gonna eat a fucking ice cream cone
Right.
when this bitch gets a Happy Meal.
Right.
So all right, so we got 2 Happy Meals. And now we go to the park, and so now Ray's gonna know that everybody got Happy Meals. He's gonna be pissed off. I wasn't pissed off. Like, I understood, but that decision of where to go, like, affects other things. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, it seems like everything extends from what do we eat.
Right.
And it's
Well, and it highlights, I guess, because it's an issue of, like, we have to have it to continue. Okay. It's not just a conversation about, hey, what do you want to watch on TV, or hey, what are your thoughts on the debate last night, or anything like that. But it does just super highlight our inability to communicate on simple things, because like, I would say this is the number one issue in relationships, regardless of what type of relationship it is. You be casual friends with someone, you go, "Hey, where do you want to go eat?" Well, you just allotted the next 2 hours to talking about fucking nothing.
Ben, remember when we were downtown and we're sitting there and we got a group of people around us?
Right.
And like, guys, we've been here for a minute. We should probably be thinking about eating something.
Right.
So, all right, let's all go eat somewhere. And literally 3 hours later, like, okay, fuck it. You go your way, I go my way. I hate you all. It's like that was the quickest way to end the conversation.
Right. I might see you Monday, but if I don't, I'm cool.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like it was one of the worst things in the world, trying to get a group of people to, like, tell you go to any group function. Like, you know what? Go to work. Guys, listen to this. Go to work on your next work day and just stay for lunch and be like, get like 5 people together. Say, all right, guys, we're gonna order a pizza, and just get the toppings. Like, don't even plan to order the pizza. Just try and get the pizza toppings.
Right.
I guarantee you ain't eating shit that day.
Right. Because you're going to end up having at least a 45-minute discussion on pineapple. Why in the name of Jesus and all the saints did we ever decide pineapple was a thing we were going to do on pizza?
All right, so pineapple on pizza. This goes back to me in college. This is all the way back to Howard University, Washington, D.C., circa 1997, 1998. I come out of my dorm room, and there's a guy on a bicycle with a stack of pizza as high as he is, and he's selling these motherfuckers like people sell drugs, okay?
All
He's
right.
just slinging them.
Yeah.
And I'm like, hey, man, give me that pizza right there. $5. Boom. I grab it, open it up, and there is chicken and pineapple on this pizza. And my first instinct is to punch him off his bike and stomp the shit out of him.
I think that would have probably made the world a better place. But
I
continue
really
the
wanted
story.
to kill this guy because I just spent $5 and he put fruit on my pizza.
Right.
But I was hungry as hell. I was just a little bit high. And I grabbed a slice of the pizza, took a bite, and it was like a whole universe of flavor opened up I had never considered. Like, it wasn't that it was good, it was that I had just never thought of that.
All right. I'm gonna make a confession then,
Sure.
because I feel like you're being very transparent with me. I have not had pineapple on a pizza since I was probably 7 years old. So 7-year-old Ben does not like pineapple on pizza.
I'm stunned by the fact that they were doing it back then. I
Yeah.
thought this was...
Do you remember Mazzio's?
Do I remember Mazzio's? God, I loved Mazzio's.
Okay, so anyway, I don't know if we just lost it. What was that?
I don't know what that was.
All right, we're hearing noises, guys.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, that was probably the last time, and if I have, that goes against what I believe, because I really and truly believe you should try something. Or yeah, I do believe that you should try something before you talk shit about it. I don't like people who haven't seen the Twilight movies.
Right.
I don't think there's anything wrong with the Twilight movies. If we're being totally honest, I like the Twilight movies. I think they're fucking great.
They are great.
That they're a very well told story. I understand the dude. It looks like he's selling contact lenses and Crest whitening strips.
Yeah.
But I mean, it kind of fits the story.
I don't love the fact that one of the main characters never wears a shirt, but
Well-
I can put up with that for the amount of entertainment that I get out of it.
Yeah, I mean, it's for what it is. It's a thing, but
Yeah.
but people talk about it, but they've never watched it. They've never given it a chance as a film.
Right.
Well, and it's probably not a film. It's probably a movie, and we'll get into that another episode. But still, my point is, I should probably try pineapple on pizza again. Right? That should probably.
I
Be
mean,
a thing
just
I do.
yeah, just like and guys, don't get it twisted. I'm not saying that pineapple pizza is something that should happen, because a part of me is still that's fucking weird. You know, that's like there's a real part of me that's still thinking that in my head. But the taste itself isn't unpleasant. And if you do it the correct way, it can actually enhance the pizza. I think a lot of people just take some pineapple chunks out of a fucking can and throw it onto a crust, and then yeah, you're gonna hate everyone.
Do you have any idea what the background is behind why?
I'm assuming like every pizza joint I've been to, they have what's called a Hawaiian pizza, which is ham and pineapple.
Okay.
And I guess it started in Hawaii. Other than that, I don't have any clue.
Okay.
Like
well,
this, like the one I had in DC was chicken and pineapple,
Okay.
and like I said, that was great. And I probably ordered that pizza, 10 or 15 times over the years when I was there. You know, it was good enough that I went back for seconds. But I don't understand where the concept came from. I don't understand why it's pineapple and not, regular apple or pears or any other. Why how come the other fruits get no pizza love? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, people love grapes.
Yeah, put grapes
Well,
on the pizza. See what
yeah,
happens.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it seems like it should be a thing.
But this idea that pineapple on pizza is something that you should fight about
No.
is fucking crazy.
Yeah, no, it's food, and where I come from, you eat food,
Yeah.
and if it's all the food there is, I mean, you thank Jesus or Buddha or Allah or who the fuck ever you pray to, and you eat it.
Yeah, I mean that's what Jesus provided today. It's pineapple on pizza. Jesus said.
All right. So what else do we have before we go into the weekend, Ray?
All right. It occurred to me listening back on our other podcast that we touched on a concept because it wasn't on the podcast that I discovered this. It was talking to a friend of mine. We're talking about tattoos and how people perceive tattoos.
Okay.
And she was talking to me. It's this coworker lady that I work with, and she was talking about how she wanted to get a tattoo, which she couldn't decide on placement. So, like, she was doing the thing that you shouldn't do before you get a tattoo, guys. If you have a tattoo idea, go make an appointment or go to a tattoo shop that you trust. Find an artist that you trust, and talk with them about what you want that tattoo to look like. Don't sit there with a Sharpie or a pen and make this detailed ass drawing out of a tattoo that you want, because I can guarantee that whatever you do on that napkin is not going to be anything as good as what your artist can do if he worked with you, or if he or she worked with you. You know what I'm saying? So work it out with your tattoo artist. As far as the drawing is concerned, you just get the concept. She had the concept. She's trying to do the drawing. So I'm like, God, it's like, okay, just don't finish out the drawing. Just, you got your outline. Go make an appointment and figure and let the artist do their job. They're the creatives. They're the artists. Let them do their job.
Okay, but we do love sketches.
Right.
I mean, I love napkin drawings. I mean, and sometimes it's funny. I'll work a long time trying to fix a napkin drawing, and then somebody will be like, you know, I really liked it the way it was on the napkin, and I mean, quite frankly, sometimes that works best. I agree with you about talk to your artist first. Well, not first, but once you have the basic sketch. Because ink goes into skin very differently depending on placement, depending on whether your tattoo is done with a machine or whether your tattoo is done old style, so stick and poke, hand poke, tabori, the way our ancestors did it, you know, one dot at a time with a bone or a needle or something like that. And then depending on the ink you have, depending on the artist you have, and so you don't want to spend too long making this great detailed drawing and want it in your armpit, and that skin is just not going to
It's not going to
detail.
work.
No,
like,
it's not going to work at all.
You know, that's my whole thing. It's like, I'll say, okay, you have an idea. You're trying to flesh out the idea, and you don't even know where you want to put it. Like, you really get to talk to an artist at this point. And so, like, I'm working with. She's like, well, the thing about it is, the placement is important because I want to be a lady, and that.
What does that mean?
Well, that's what I asked her. I was like, what are you talking about? She said, well, like, say if I put it on my neck, you know, I can't be a lady with a tattoo on the side of my neck. I was like, how is that a thing? She said, well, when you see a person when the person has a tattoo on the side of their neck, they are perceived by other people. I said, so who is doing the perception? You know, I kept asking questions.
Yeah.
And she was like, well, you know, if you have a tattoo, because she was like, I'm trying to be attractive. So if you have a tattoo on the side of your neck, you're not going to attract the intelligent person with the job and all that. You're going to attract, you know, gangsters or thugs or whatnot. And I stopped her and I said, well, that's not true. All right, if you have a tattoo on the side of your neck and it's a gangster thug looking at you, he's not thinking about your tattoo at all, because he sees that 1,000 times a day. He literally doesn't see those anymore.
Right.
The person you're likely to attract is the person who hasn't seen that before, doesn't interact with that on a daily basis, and that's going to be your professional, you know, in a professional setting. He's going to look at that and go, wow, that's exotic. I find that titillating, and he's probably going to be the one that you attract, A. And B, what kind of fucking stupid concept is that you're trying to do your tattoo placement based upon how somebody sees you from across the street? That's not what you really want to do, because what you're doing now is looking at the tattoo placement and filtering it through your own lens of how you feel about people with tattoos. So when you see a person with a tattoo placed, you see a woman, you see a woman placed with a tattoo, and think about each placement and how you feel about it, because that's what you're trying to satisfy. You're not actually worried about how I feel about it. You're worried about how you feel about it. You think that women with a woman with a tattoo on the side of her neck is unladylike. That's something that's what you feel, not what I feel. That's not what society feels, per se, so much as what you're feeling. So that's what's messing up your placement. And
Yeah.
and so we talked about that for a little bit, and then it occurred to me that I hadn't talked about that on the podcast. I hadn't brought up the fact we had talked about tattoo perception, but we hadn't talked about gender bias in tattoo perception. Because when I asked her, like, okay, you see a man with a tattoo on the side of his neck, what do you think? And she's like, well, I think he's a man who likes tattoos. I said, do you think he's, dangerous or anything like that? She's like, no, not necessarily.
Yeah.
I said, what about if he has a tattoo on his upper arm like I do?
Yeah.
It was like, no, what about lower arm like I do? So, no, okay, what about hands like I don't? It's like, hand tattoos. It's like, see, so now we're getting someplace. It's like men have a perception. Men are perceived in one way if they have their tattoos placed in those, and women are perceived another way.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, that's a concept I really want to explore, is how deep does this gender bias go? Or is that really a thing? And it's something I knew I could ask Ben, because Ben runs a tattoo shop.
I think it definitely does exist, and I think it's pretty fascinating. I mean, definitely tattoo culture is changing, and I can't speak to I can't necessarily speak to what it was pre-2014, but for me, I know that right now 90% of our clientele since 2014 have been female.
That's interesting.
90%. And I think one of the reasons for that is, in this shop specifically, we don't use machines. And so
Yes.
the reality is, I'm just going to say it how it is, women are stronger.
Okay.
I think every intelligent man knows that.
I don't think it's something that's going to get a lot of pushback.
Yeah, and so women go, oh, you don't have machines? You hand poke it dot by dot? Sure, fine, let's go. And men go, wait a minute, you don't have a machine? How long am I going to have to sit here?
Yeah.
Like, well, this one's going to take 45 minutes. Oh, God, no. I mean, my artist over in Livingston can finish it in 11 minutes. So you can take 11 minutes of pain, but not 45. Like, you just leave your man card here, and we'll see you next time.
Yeah, just wait till your balls drop and come back and
Yeah.
get a hand poke tattoo.
Now, I think, me personally, I love tattoos however they're done.
Correct.
You can do them with a machine. You can brand them. I think one day they'll be 3D printed on you. I really don't care. I like tattoos. I like getting tattoos.
Right.
So it doesn't really matter to me how you get them. I like all of them. You can't cheat on me as an artist. I think the only thing you can do to me as an artist is lie to me,
Right.
which I just don't like lying in general.
Yeah. Do you think that we just said that men tend to be more put off by the hand poke, and it's true. Like, whenever I have a conversation with a female about hand poke tattoos, they say, "Wow, that's a really interesting concept. I'm gonna come check it out." If I say that to a guy, a male, his first response is, "Does it hurt more?"
Right.
And my question to you is, Ben, have you noticed that happening more with younger guys, or our age, or older guys?
I would definitely say it's across the board, but probably tilted towards 30 and up.
30 and up. Yeah, I think that a lot of our age group, we have a kind of a weird concept with physical pain. Like,
Yeah.
it's like we perceive it in with two minds. I remember when I was in Washington D.C. A few years ago. This is a little fact on me. I have gout. Okay, gout is when your body produces too much uric acid, and it forms little crystals and gets into your joints,
Okay.
and causes a horrendous amount of pain.
Okay.
Like, I can't even explain it. And so in Washington D.C., I had this really bad gout attack, and it was in my left ankle, and it felt like my ankle was broken. And I did not do anything to alter my trip. I went to, we went from Baltimore to Washington, D.C. I did the entire mall with this pain in my ankle. I did all the Smithsonian. I was blinded by pain the entire time. I was grimacing the entire time. I was limping the entire time. And I did like 40 miles on my feet.
Okay.
I didn't let anything about that pain stop me at all. And when the pain finally stopped, it wasn't until the pain stopped that I realized how bad it was. And I realized that I've been doing that my entire life. Like, I've been ignoring a lot of pain my entire life. And later on, I started talking to other people my age, and like, we've all been doing that, male and female. Like, we've been ignoring a lot of pain our entire lives.
Yeah.
And I just think women are more aware of it because they're told from an early age, eventually you're going to have a child. When you have a child, you're going to go through this pain. And so that they're always aware. They're trying to check the pain against childbirth at all times. So it's like, well, you know, a hand poke tattoo, it can't be as bad as childbirth. So I can go ahead and
yeah, I would agree with that.
You know, and whereas men are like, I can avoid childbirth easily. You know, so I'll never feel that pain. So why on earth would I subject myself to this? The truth is, if you just give something new like hand poke a chance, you'll find that it hurts differently than a regular tattoo. It hurts differently than any other pain in your life. It's a different experience altogether.
It is. I still love getting machine tattoos. I think I enjoy hand poke more, but that's probably because I'm closer to it now. I always argued, especially when I started getting tattoos, that tattoos are a fantastic option for not feeling the pain of life. I mean, I don't know how to say that differently. Like emotional pain or psychological pain, to me is far less. And we're not talking about being alone, but we can say like being lonely. Like, dude, I can get my back tattooed every day compared to being lonely.
Right.
I can get my back tattooed every day versus finding out someone doesn't trust me as a human. Now, you know, if you ask Caleb Dew, I definitely struggle a little bit with getting my stomach tattooed. I may or may not have passed out. Sorry, Brandon, for knocking your station over.
Oops.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely struggle with getting my stomach tattooed. But besides that, I haven't found anything that really, you know, even gets close to like emotional or psychological pain.
Yeah, like, and that's. I think that women handle that better than men do.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, just in general. Like, how many times have you seen? Like, my wife gets tattooed by a machine or a hand poke, and literally she seems to have no limit. Like, she can take, you know, if it lasts 2 hours, whatever, she'll last 2 hours. If that's 4 hours, she'll be there for 4 hours. She doesn't care.
Yeah, and the only limiting factor there is how long will the skin take ink.
Right.
In the same area.
Right.
So it's not actually her psychological ability; it's actually her skin's, you know, ability to keep taking ink.
Right.
And people say, you know, that's one of the reasons I'm not a huge fan of tap out sessions, because tap out sessions, for the most part, from what I've seen, never go as long as you think.
Right.
Because at some point, even with machine artists, from what I've observed, and that's limited, it's only since '98. At some point, your skin's just gonna be like, hey, fuck you.
Right.
Stop doing this. I'm either gonna send this guy into shock, you know, or I'm just gonna blur everything you just did.
Yeah.
So I think, you know, I'd love to have some machine artists on here in the future and get their input on how long a true tap out session can actually go. There's no doubt in my mind, if I wanted to, I could tattoo someone for 24 hours. But whether or not that's a good idea, I mean, just because you can do something doesn't mean you should.
Yeah. Should you do that?
I don't know.
That's a bad idea. But well, that's a bad idea. Are there really bad ideas? It's an idea.
Yeah, it may have a different outcome, but I think the gender bias thing. I mean, we're going to bring that up again because it definitely applies to a lot more areas than simply tattoos. It comes up a lot. It came up with employment. It's now come up with tattoos. I think certainly as soon as we get much further into parenting, we're going to have to talk to some ladies.
Major issue with gender bias and parenting.
Absolutely,
and
100%.
it goes both ways. Like, I like gender bias and parenting as a discussion point because it goes both ways.
Yeah.
Like, there's a big discussion about like how needed are fathers.
Yeah.
If you can believe that as a concept, how needed are fathers? Or do you really need a father, or is a mother enough? And to tell you the truth, I go both ways on it. Because
why?
Well, I go both ways on it because a lot of us didn't see our dads a lot growing up. I mean, like our dads, our generation's dads, they were very, very, very hard workers. They put a cot down by their office desk.
Yeah.
Or they put they had a sleeper cabin in their Mack truck, and they didn't come home for 4 or 5 days.
Yeah.
And so a lot of us didn't get a whole lot of direct one-on-one father to son, father to daughter guidance, and we came out like we did. I don't know if it was good or bad.
Yeah.
And so, but at the same time, like everything that my father ever told me, I latched onto like air.
Yeah.
Like like it was those any conversation my dad's ever had to me has been one of the most important conversations of my life.
Yeah, I agree.
And so, and if he wasn't there, if I wasn't able to hear his keys hit the counter at night and know that he was in the house, I couldn't sleep.
Yeah.
That's part of the reason why I have a hard time sleeping now.
Yeah.
Because I would just be awake until he came home, and then I would drop off immediately.
Yeah.
And it'd be like 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. So, but it's a conversation that's actually ongoing. Like how needed, like should fathers have more of a say over their kids in child court?
Yeah.
I work with kids now, and it's like, okay, the mother and the father don't get along. Who do we listen to?
Yeah.
And it's, I mean, stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's going to be we're going to have great conversations about it.
Yeah.
Probably whole episodes about it.
For sure. I think that's probably going to have to wrap up today. I know this was a little bit lower key. Mike, CIO Payne, Mike Payne is off on a conference call making money, and that's good. He had to duck out.
I don't know why he would do that. This obviously this is more important.
Well, someone has to pay for all this equipment.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
I don't think either of us are going to really do that.
We're not going to do that, no.
Yeah. I actually remembered to go renew the license for Black Spot today, so I'm super proud of that.
Oh, nice job.
It was under 30 days late. So like
sweet.
Yeah, like I got it in the same year this time. Anyone who knows me, or you're going to find out, I am not particularly good with the adulting, the bills and the things of that nature.
Fucked up thing is I'm not either. And
Right.
so, like, two people who don't adult well
Right.
shouldn't like start a concept together. It's like
Right.
one of us has to be the adult. Like, you be the adult. No, fuck you. You be the adult.
Yeah, and then everybody likes to hate on Payne, but the thing is, like, dude, he pays all his bills on time. He pays some of our bills on time.
I mean,
like,
seriously, without Mike Payne, honestly, not only would we not be here, would not be here on this podcast.
Right.
I don't know if we could have even thought about starting it before the end of next year.
I totally agree. Hey, one thing I do want to say though is you guys seriously help us out a little bit, and I know I'm asking a lot for the three of you that are listening, but seriously, interact with us on some form of social media. We might even get to the point where we give some cell phone numbers out. we really need feedback. We're really working hard to learn a lot about this because we want to have guests as soon as possible, and we need to be talking about sound quality. We need to be talking about the makeup of the show and the narrative of the show, and you know, we're not going to change our voice necessarily, but we do want to include you in it, and we want to include the things that are important to you in it, and we also would like some actual, you know, public comments on podcasts you listen to.
That would be great, guys. If you would just, I mean, just because everything's nebulous right now. We're just now getting into it. We're posting so much content, largely because we have to practice this out. You know, this format could continue where we keep doing like 5 days a week, if that's what you guys, if you think it works. But we need you guys to just tell us if it works or not. Or if we should, like, hey guys, an hour is great, but 2 hours would be better if you do it 3 times a week. You know, I mean, just let us know things like that, and ask questions so that we know what you're into. Like, you know, I'm into Naruto, but a lot of you guys are into other media, other stories, and there's a good chance that I've heard of that as well, and so maybe we can actually get into it, talk to it a little bit about it, and we can start a conversation going on back and forth. We have the capability here to take call-ins or do call-outs, or we got a lot of stuff that we can start dipping into if you guys are of a mind to. So just let us know.
Yeah, two people I wanted to shout out real quick. Head over to Make Big Moves at Make Big Moves, make.big.moves. Erica over there has she has like a mug business. She's got one of the dopest feeds I've seen, and it's kind of astounding. It's from Milam, Texas, but Hemp Hill area. But you know, there are people over there too, apparently. She's also started this account recently that actually got this podcast started. She'll probably be one of our first guests if she'll be willing to be to come on the show. I think that she's basically pushing every human that she meets to do the one thing that scares them.
Yes,
And
do the thing that you're afraid of.
Yeah, and I think that's an amazing thing. The other account that I want you to take a look at is bass_Steve. That's BASS. Steve is an incredible bass player. He's also an incredible guitar player if you can get him to play guitar for you. He's one of my good friends. I've been tattooing him for about 2 years now, and he's one of my clients who I just draw on, and we go, and that means a lot to me. But yeah, he's an incredible human being with an incredible sense of humor and just a highly skilled person. So check those accounts out, Make Big Moves and bass_Steve. And yeah.
Also, go ahead and check out at Tattoo with Children on IG and at Tattooed With on Twitter. You can interact there. And on Facebook, it's Tattooed with Children. And also, you can find all of our podcasts on www.tattooedwithchildren.com. All 4 episodes that I've already posted, and this one, which will be posted shortly. And yeah, we're gonna go smoke.
All right, guys. Have a
Love
great
you.
weekend.
Doesn't matter if you're cooler. Hotter than the quarters, all present, better lose some fight.